Streamlabs, unfortunately. That's a shame. You missed a really good end of a ramble. I was basically telling you my post-stream routine, which involves going outside and screaming at the sky and rolling on the ground. But hey, let's move on. Hand of Hexes, Tower Deckfense, and Tower Lab. So my first impression of these, Tower Lab, I look at that and I go, ooh, that looks interesting. Everything here looks appealing to me. Hand of Hexes, very charming looking. Looks like it could get visually confusing because of the art style, but we'll see how we get on. And Tower Deckfense, I don't feel super inspired by this, and it is mainly like, it looks like it could be mechanically interesting, but I also see this is a very sort of mobile game art style. And it's this combination of this low poly and this particular type of line art that just feels like, I know that it's a particular asset pack or whatever, but it just feels very mobile gamey to me. So, what was the first one? Hand of Hexes. Let's check out the demo for Hand of Hexes. Thanks the 3 folks who've rejoined. Hopefully the stream keeps up this time. So this is the hand-drawn one. I'm going to give each one of these like 20 minutes so that they get a fair look in, and then we'll see how things go from there. This is incredibly charming. I love all of this art style. It's just whether or not it's going to read well once we're actually playing the game. Look at that. We're going to go to a fight, I guess. Stuff's going to kill you coming from there. You're going to use cards to stop the stuff. And then it has to go round. This is an interesting tutorial approach. Okay. That was a cool tutorial. So these guys, are you an enemy, or are you just going around the edge of the map? What's happening? Do you need to be here? Are you just a distraction? Okay. They don't seem to be gameplay related. So the enemy's going to come out of there. They're going to come around this way. They're going to follow the shortest route. And I think that faint line there is showing me where they'll go. So... okay. Froggy there. Bomb there. Oh, the bombs just go off when they go off. Okay. So, frogs like that. When are the enemies going to come? This is great. I think the only thing visually I would think about is the level of visual noise in different places. This texture on the background is a little bit noisy, and it might be better if this was just shaded all to grey, so that everything on top of it can stand out a bit more. So we're dropping bombs. We've got a hand of cards. I'm not quite sure how the real-time hand of cards works, but one thing I do like here is we don't have... the cards are simple enough that they don't have any text. And every time I've seen someone attempt like a real-time card-based game, where they often go down the route of expecting you to read loads of rule text while you're playing a real-time game, and it just doesn't work. And this hasn't done that. It's like, the card, you can tell from the symbols what it does, and then when you hover it into the space, it shows you the attack pattern or whatever. So, these are going into the deck. Is it pick one? Is that a skunk? Tentacle. I want the weird mushroom thing. It's like a mushroom. There's nothing to tell us what these are before. I think I would like some mouse over tips on what these things do. The cauldron and stuff. I think this is basically just, telling you can delete units. Yeah. Okay. I understand. I need a quicker keyboard way of changing the speeds. I think 1, 2, and 3 would work. I'm not sure. I want the snail. We mix cards together. Frog and frog. Oh, that's not very interesting. Frog and mushroom. I don't want to get rid of my mushroom. Okay, I'm just going to mix the frogs. See, maybe the cauldron was like to delete something. Let's go and mix things again. But if I have the option between just getting rid of a card or merging 2 cards, which also gets rid of a card, I'm always going to choose the merge. The music does fit, but it's a little bit digital. I hear lots of electronic instruments, and when I see this hand-drawn style, it kind of makes me want to hear, like, just someone noodling on a real instrument. It does fit, though. It feels right thematically. What's going on here? Okay, so they're coming from there. There's a couple of different directions they could go in. Interesting. Okay. There's some interesting path building to be done here. It's a bit of a long delay before the enemies come in. There we go. That's what we want. They've got to do a big long S all the way around. They're going to get hit by everything now. And get rid of this guy and put my more powerful frog down there. Okay, so you use energy to draw. The energy is up here. This isn't necessarily where I would have this, but it's okay. I feel loosely aware of it, but it feels like it's not in the relevant place for it to be. Not in the most relevant place for it to be. Yeah, I think one of the biggest, the biggest impact for the smallest change here, I think, would be taking all of the path here and making sure it's all a sort of grey colour instead of... Because it's got quite a high internal contrast, right? And when you're trying to create a visual hierarchy, if you make something that's basically black and white or grey and white like this, it has a high internal contrast, and that makes it seem important. Whereas if we made that so it was like dark grey on medium grey, then everything else would pop more. So it's very visually noisy, and some of that adds to the charm, but I think that the stuff that is here in the gameplay area needs to be a bit clearer, and there are some easy things to do there, I think. It's interesting because your towers are blockers, right? So you want to put them down to create the path, but you often end up putting them in a way that makes them shoot in the wrong direction if you do that. Yeah, a little bit more, like, I think a little bit more to distinguish the towers from the enemies would be helpful as well. Now, you've got a lot of design features here that you can use. It's just starting from the point of view of players need to be able to see what's going on, right? So you've got this cutout effect where you've got these characters drawn on white paper with a cutout, right? The enemies could just be on a different color paper, right? They're on a pinky red color or something. I don't know. There are lots of things you can do to make this easier to read, and I think it's just sort of all come from the point of view of style. Gameplay feels pretty good. I was gonna comment at sort of at the start of that round that it felt too easy, but it did start to get a bit more overwhelming. Okay, so they're going to come here, they're going to go that way. This line is very faint as well. There is a line here showing us the path they're going to go, but it's so faint that it's almost not worth having. Yeah, I would really think about the layout of where the energy is compared to the stuff you need to use it on. It's a little bit of a long distance for the eye to travel to sort of work out how this relates to what you've got in your hand. I really like the kind of core gameplay though. I think that what's going on here in terms of you're building the path, you're able to quite quickly dig things up and replace them, which makes it quite forgiving, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's too easy either. You know, I'm not having too many frustrations of, oh, I've put that there in a stupid place and I can't undo it because the game is allowing you to switch where things are, so. I would even say that in terms of that thing we discussed earlier on in the stream about, you know, making a little death machine, this is achieving that probably the best that I've seen today, and it's because we've got this sort of visually overwhelming stream of enemies that are very close together, and I think that is a part of the tower defense secret sauce. Nice. We'll start the next level. I probably need to get a move on with this one. We'll do one more. This feels really, really good. There's like so many little tweaks you could make to make it like visually clearer, but the actual core game design is really solid here. It's very quick to learn. You've got a lot of nice little kind of helper mechanics that... Ooh, dolphin? Yeah, lots of kind of helper mechanics that make it sort of easy to understand what's going on. But sometimes visually confusing in a way that could be avoided. I think... I do wonder if when you draw cards it should get rid of whatever's in your hand. Otherwise you're sort of forced to use all the bombs, which feels a bit strange. Evil dolphin. Yeah, I think they are properly... They're either drawn on paper or it would be done on something where you can hand draw like Procreate or... They're very cute. Neat. Right, we're going to check out the next one. That one's great. I think there are some UI layout things I would rethink. Mainly just having the amount of power you've got up in the top right there. It just doesn't feel intuitive. I don't know where a better place for it is. But let's check out Tower Deckfense. This is the one that I said looks a little bit... just looks a little bit too mobile gamey to me. Not inspiring. But let's see what the actual gameplay is like, because it's the same concept. It's using cards to play a deck. You know, this looks like sort of we've got Clash Royale at home type thing. I'm not a big fan of these sort of marionette chibi characters either. They sort of... I don't understand who it's supposed to appeal to. It feels like the sort of thing I would have thought was cool when I was a young teenager or something. I don't understand who it's supposed to appeal to as a Steam game. Okay, so this is Rick's loadout, is it? These are the towers he gets and the upgrades he gets. Yeah, they've all been pretty good today. Passive upgrade. I love a passive upgrade because I don't have to think about it. The start screen looked like it was probably AI, yeah. Tower Deckfense is a card-based tower defense game where you must improve your deck to build the best towers to defend your base in any situation. That's a very long sentence. WASD. Mouse wheel, okay. Upgrade cards are purple. You drop them onto the towers you've already built. That's neat. That seems like it could be interesting. And then spell cards are just like Magic the Gathering instants. These are. This is all. Yeah, I'm thinking of Clash Royale, not Clash of Clans. It's similar to that. Okay, we'll spin the camera around. Again, we're doing sort of very friendly, dreamy, kind of childlike music here. And I guess it's meant to be chill, but... So they're only going to come from there. Serpiente and Mollusco. That's where they're going to come from. We'll put a ballista on the end. We'll put a cannon here. And... Oh, they all cost gold to play. Okay. Got it. And you pay gold to get your new hand. That's a surprisingly aggressive cannon sound given the rest of the aesthetics of the game. These are cute. They feel like Mario enemies. Why are we listening to a baby's lullaby while there's a cannon making a really loud blast noise? I appreciate that we haven't talked much about game design today, and a lot of it has been about creative direction, but I think that is partly because a lot of what we're seeing here is pretty good. Like someone just said in the chat, everything we've seen in this and the everything I've seen in today has been okay, that's partly because tower defense is such a solved genre that you just sort of, if you follow the formula reasonably well, you end up with a good game. But I don't want to listen to a baby's lullaby while we blow stuff up with towers. So I'm gonna just put the fantasy music from the music library back on like I did earlier, because suddenly it feels correct. You're defending something. The music should sound perilous. Especially when you're trying to do these little chibi fantasy guys that are supposed to look cool. There are little things on here that give them a bonus to something, I think. But there's no way of working out what that is in the game unless you already know it. It doesn't tell you. I guess that would be range and attack damage. it feels quite nice. Like the clicking on things and the just like game feel of the basic interactions feel quite good. I'll switch back to the original music now, just for comedic effect, to heighten the point. So let's go back. This is what the original music looked like, sounded like. Baby monsters going to school, going to get murdered along the way. Baby monsters getting shot in the face. Baby monsters will get erased from history. I love killing baby monsters. Shoot them with a cannon. That's what that music sounds like to me. Baby monsters, make them dead. Kill them all. Purge them from the earth. Baby monsters, kill them all. I will not rest until this kingdom has been purged of their cute little faces. Baby monsters. You can have cute enemies, you totally can have cute enemies, but if you pair it with that music... If you pair it with that music, then it looks like one of those, like, those Korean baby animations that you get on Netflix that are aimed at 5-year-olds, and it doesn't look like something that's supposed to be about killing things. You can totally have cute aesthetics and you can have cute enemies, but you need to make the music fit the activity of what you're doing, right? So when you pick your music... Think about what is the player supposed to be. If the player is supposed to be a hero who is defeating stuff, right? Then that is what the music should evoke. The music, don't go down this route of going, oh, the game is cute, so the music should be cute. Because you just create the baby monsters. The baby monsters purge the baby monsters, killed the baby monsters game. And, nobody wants to play that. You totally can kill cute little dogs, but you need to, like... You just need to... This is the power of music in anti-monster propaganda. You slam some epic music behind it, and it makes it sound like whatever you're doing is just and exciting. There's so much stuff here that is made to make this feel like a mobile free-to-play game, even though it's not. And I don't understand why you would do that. I think it's a case of game developer that doesn't play indie games. I see a lot of this, and it irks me so much. You get people that are like predominantly software developers, but they don't really... I'm extrapolating a lot from this game. But I would suspect that this is why we're seeing a lot of the kind of game design and economy design and creative design decisions that we're seeing in this game. Is that it's like just someone that fundamentally doesn't actually play indie games on Steam. And there's a lot of you out there. You're probably not watching this stream. But you can tell when someone doesn't play indie games because they make a game that looks like Clash of Clans crossed with a Korean toddler cartoon. And there's totally a world where you can use all of these same art assets and make something that feels more like a Steam indie game. But it doesn't have the Baby Monsters song. Yeah, maybe it is a mobile dev. I don't know. I like these assets. I don't like these 2D chibi characters. Just because they have a very sort of flash game energy. And I'm saying this as someone who earlier was saying he really likes Kingdom Rush, right? And that has characters that are almost exactly like this dude. But there's something about them being really tiny on the screen that makes that work for me. I kind of like all these individual art assets. There's just something about the interface choices and all of these currencies and stuff that just makes it feel like it's... You know, like when Supercell or King or whoever mobile games company makes a game and it's a hit and everyone rushes to copy it and they make mobile games that look like Clash of Clans and stuff. I can understand doing that as a mobile game. What I can't understand is why you do that as a Steam game when it's a completely different market that likes different things. But I like these individual assets. I just think you do different stuff with the colours and the music and stuff. You make it feel a little bit more adult. Because otherwise it feels like it's aimed at a casual mobile audience. And casual mobile audiences don't buy premium games on Steam. That's why they are people that play casual mobile games. Because they've bought into that idea that a free game that is constantly begging you for money is better than a game that you pay $5 for. It's just a fundamentally different audience with a different sort of set of buyer psychology stuff going on. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're used to, from things like Mario and stuff, having these kind of cute enemies that don't look like a threat. But even if just the music and the environment looked a bit more threatening, then it would be okay, I think. But yeah, the puppies at least have angry eyes, right? That's the classic way of how do you know a character in a cartoon is an enemy. Like these bombs, they look scary. The wolves have angry eyes. The crabs look like they could be enemies. That little dinosaur guy is the guy that really just looks like a baby. That is not an aggressor in any shape or form. Yeah, Mario, you know who you're supposed to be murdering because they're unhappy. That's the underlying procedural rhetoric of Mario, is that unhappy people and objects should have their heads stomped on. Don't be unhappy or I'll jump on your head. Look, I think the core idea of this is reasonably well implemented. I think if we think a little bit more about the game design decisions here for a moment before I move on. What is actually happening? We're still actually collecting money and spending money to do everything. So I think the deck building aspect of this game feels like a bit of a gimmick. Because all the deck is there to do is limit what I can currently do. Right? The deck is there to limit the actions that I can take, and that's generally what happens in a deck builder, right? A deck builder, like a Slay the Spire type deck builder, you're taking turn-based combat like you'd get in an old school Final Fantasy or Pokemon, and you're making it more interesting by limiting the amount of stuff you can do each turn to what's in the deck. The problem here is I've pretty much always got something useful, and then they all cost money, so it just kind of feels like what the deck is actually achieving in this game is just what I would normally be able to do in a tower defense anyway using my money, but you're constraining me down to a few choices. And again, that's all pushing it in the direction of being a very casual experience, and that might work very well as a mobile game. I think if personally, if I was trying to do this type of thing of combining these two genres, I would think, okay, we've got tower defense games, what works there? We've got deck builder games, what works there? The design space is the overlap between these things. So I would be looking at things like, can the cards be part of the resource that you use in order to build the towers or open more space? And they've done this a little bit by having these upgrades that you use the cards for. But it feels a bit strange that we're still paying money to use the cards, because then it kind of, I don't know, it just sort of ends up in a space where I feel like the card play of this, what's going on with the cards here, is not capitalizing on the mix of the genres as much as it could do. And I don't know a clearer way to say that, but I mean, it does create quite a neat flow of you can't get like choice paralysis of like you're looking at the whole thing and you're like, I could build anything anywhere, right? So what it's doing is constraining your choice down to just, this is what you can currently do, where do you want to do it? I would like to play it for a bit longer because I think there's something interesting in this design. But we need to move on, and also I find a lot of the art choices here just really off-putting and not appealing. The cannon feels so brutal as well. There's something really funny about the combination of like, there's just a little cute monster waddling by, and then the cannon sound effect is so violent. It feels like a sort of historically accurate sound effect they would use in Master and Commander or something, like some really serious film with naval battles. And it just makes it sound so violent. That's a cool visual effect, those arrows spawning. A dragon? I want that. Just want 2 dragons. You can't really tell what the towers do when you pick them as well, which is making that feel like a very low agency decision, because I don't understand what the outcome is going to be. Just forgot. Let's turn off the appropriate music again and see what's going on in the game. Let's just stop now. The game has given up on music. I got the temptation to sing the Baby Monsters song again. It's just too strong. Baby monsters getting murdered on the way to school. Hello, baby monsters. It's time for you to get incinerated. Can you spell incinerated? Now, what I do like is that, you know, similar to Tangy TD earlier, there's a lot of modularity here. So I can add ice damage to one of these. Not to anything, apparently. I can't add it to the dragon. But this now is an ice ballista. That's quite satisfying. Poison dragon. We've got poison dragon up here now. Is it going to have a different colour flame because it's poison? Hello, baby monsters. Watch out. Let's just play the game from the monster's point of view. Watch out, baby monsters. There's an arrow. Always be careful with sharp objects. And ask a parent to help you. Or a guardian. You might not have a parent, because it might have been killed by a dragon. Like this crab here. I can make a poison cannon. That's satisfying. I like the way that you can sort of pick the elemental damage and put it on the towers. I don't think we're getting quite enough visual feedback on the... I want to see the projectiles change when the damage types are added, you know? It's also not... Sometimes it's just not letting me... I think maybe it's because I've already got a damage type on there. That wasn't good. It just let me build straight on top. Oh, is that... Oh, that's merged them together. Okay. Yeah, it feels like we got a tutorial on lots of basic stuff that is just how the genre works. And then there's some stuff that's specific to the game that hasn't been explained. Like, I don't seem to be able to add this poison damage to anything. And maybe it's because they've already got a damage type and you can only put one damage type on something, but it's just not telling me why I can't do it. It's just not letting me do it. Baby monsters. Baby monsters. Getting incinerated on the way to school. Oh no. Hello, little dinosaur. Have you just hatched from your egg? Unfortunately, you're in the middle of a war zone. Don't get murdered. Oh no. What's this guy? Like a snowman head. Snowman head that's a bomb. So what we should have is... Triple snake. I like this guy. Perfect now, right? Here he comes. Oh no! He's broke through from a different asset pack. He's a Sinti guy, isn't he? I can tell by the eyes. Hang on. There's how far down the creative direction hacking wormhole can we go? Let's add a... Let's see what we can do. Hang on. Color correction. Oh, that's the wrong one. Hang on. There we go. There we go, that's better. Oh, it's Hades now. I actually turned it into Hades. You shift it the other way. Right, let's move on to the last one. Thank you, Dev, for submitting that. I was a little bit harsh on that, but it's like, this is the thing. If you make a half-decent tower defense and you execute on it reasonably well, people aren't going to have much to say about the game mechanics, which then really draws attention to the creative direction. And this is just a sort of one instance of something I've seen quite a lot of times, which is just a game on Steam that doesn't feel like it's made for an adult indie game audience. And I don't know why that is. I think maybe the developer is thinking, if I go down this route, it's going to be really accessible and loads of people are going to like it. The sort of people who would like it aren't paying $5 or $10 for a game on Steam. They are exclusively playing mobile games. So it's just a weird set of creative decisions. And it's just that tonal thing of, if you go down that route of things being cute, and this applies to Tower Deckfense, but it also applied to Tangy TD, don't make the music cute. The music should be evoking the sort of emotional thing of what the player is doing. So if the player is a hero who is protecting stuff, the music still needs to go down that route. And with Tangy, you saw how much more fitting it was to put the epic orchestral music on it, and it helped reinforce the humor of the game, to have that slight disjunct between it being cute, silly characters and very epic music. Games have been doing that for ages. Castle Crashers does that. Binding of Isaac does that. That whole wave of Newgrounds type games did that thing of having kind of cute, quirky art, but still going for the sort of epic action movie music. It works really, really well. If you have a cute aesthetic and you put cute music with it, it ends up feeling like a sort of thing. You know, your toddler goes on Netflix, they click a random Korean 3D cartoon, it ends up having that vibe. Let's quickly check out Tower Lab. This looks like it's going to be a bit physicsy, so roguelike tower defense where enemies can't be killed, knock them off with physics instead. That's interesting. So we've kind of kept the more experimental games in the back end of the stream. So we hope you enjoyed the little... I did my own asset swap there with the hue shader. Let's play. This all looks lovely and cohesive. I see 3D art. I see graphic design and typography. It all goes together. Very pretty, sort of giving like Hitman Go type vibes meets Portal. So enemies are going to walk along this line. Lovely little bits of decoration of these little leafy bits. That's really, really nice. Right, that's going to fire a pulsating ball of energy. Zap nearby enemies with the high knockback force. Decreases the size of enemies by shrinking them. Okay, so they're just really setting us up here to experiment straight off the bat. They've given us an interesting set of things, and it's just, hey, see what happens when you play around with these. I respect it. happens there. Interesting. Okay, that was a lot faster than I thought it was going to be. I can't quite... Oh, that's the resource. Okay. It's very pretty, isn't it? Incredibly difficult to balance because you're working with physics and it's very squishy. The gravity tower feels very overpowered when you put it in a corner like that. Because you can just pull them all off the track. That's delightful. This is really, really pleasurable. It's very much giving the murder machine quality. So if you've joined the second half of the stream but not missed the first half, I was talking right at the beginning about like tower defense games. They have this kind of strategic layer that is just, you know, thinking through the economic and spatial problem of where do I put my towers, and they need to be good at that. But then the other criteria I think they need to be good at, which is like, it's a bit more of a childish thing, and it's not the thing that people will quote as their favorite thing about tower defense games, but for me it's just like this, creating this procedure that mushes loads of things and you get to just watch loads of little dudes get squished. This feels like it's gonna do that very, very well, even though it's just capsules. I want the fan tower. That just feels like it's a classic in this type of situation. That's a good shout. So Cabs in the chat just said that it feels like the enemies are going to come out and move slowly, and that's because of the speed of the line. That's a really, really good observation. Like, the speed of the line should indicate the speed of the enemies. It does, I mean, it already does, sort of subconsciously, regardless of whether it's intended to or not. So that's definitely worth thinking about. Yeah, it doesn't, yeah, I mean, the balance isn't important, but you still need to know that it's winnable for whatever criteria, right? So you wouldn't want to have like a very strict rule of like, oh, you must do this thing on this particular level to do this, otherwise you might end up with some situations where things are just not achievable that you've asked the players to do, right? So you're going to have to do a lot of balancing by hand, basically. There's some weird choices here about these decorative bits, because I see that space. That looks like it's meant for pushing a character through, but it actually sits between blocks, which is a little bit disappointing. I hate these little pills. I'm gonna cast them into the void. Now this is one where the music fits as well. It's kind of like Portal but happy, right? It's not tense, but that's because we're not shooting guns at monsters, right? It's not relying on the sort of hero of the realm fantasy. So for me, this is a situation where it's much more appropriate for it to have this kind of plinky plonky, happy ambient music, because it's not trying to evoke being a hero. Actually, we're doing something a lot more goofy and just sort of chilled out. How small can we make them? Can we shrink them twice? Can we do a double shrinker? Gravity tower is so ominous. So the gravity tower doesn't drop them, so it gets them in its orbit and then you need to hit them with something else. It's effectively like the slow or ice towers usually function in most tower defense games. So can we get... We can get something in our orbit and then grow it so that it's too big. Will it fall down? Is that a thing that can happen? I don't know. What's going on here? They're sort of losing before they've started because they're falling everywhere. This one's golden. Pleasing. They've locked the camera orientation as well. You can't like rotate the level, and I think that's probably a good choice. It makes it look very visually consistent. Interface a little bit. Okay, that's because I can't afford that. That was a little bit confusing for me, but. Okay, last level for me today, I think, and then I need to go and clear my old house. I've moved, but I haven't finished clearing the old house. No fun. Can I make them so big that they can't fit through a space? That would be very funny. Hendaslo, I don't know what you're, if you're referring to. You might be a little bit behind on the stream. I haven't referenced a game not made for the adult indie game audience for a long time. Unless you're talking about these marching ants that are currently on the screen. It's hard to... I don't know. If he's back in time, I don't know why I'm talking to him in the present anyway. Right, what we want to do is bunch them all up so that they get stuck in this gap. What's that one? You can't see what they are. When you can't afford them, the cards don't pop up and you can't see... I'm glad that there's something in there that changes when you can't afford them, but it also means you can't see what the thing was when you can't use it anymore, which is a bit of a shame. I do think some of these level decorations are a little bit confusing because so does that have a physics interaction? Does that stop that ball triggering? Yeah, it does. Okay. So why let me build anything there at all? At least you can pick stuff up and move it around after you've placed it, which is good. Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's kind of deliberately sort of, what would you call it, evoking Portal vibe by having the blue and orange. But that was always, even in Portal, that was a very sort of, this is just a classic sort of 1970s sci-fi visual thing to do, you know. I'm guessing if you put fans opposite each other, they're just going to kind of cancel each other out a little bit. Does the shrink work through a wall? I guess it probably will, because it just like highlights the block as they go through. It's so funny that they just fall off straight away like that. I think this would be better if I have two fans on the same side, because they can. Because otherwise, this is like, oh, this has got blocked anyway. This one hasn't been working because of that ball. I've got an idea. I really like the way this game is set up to let you sort of theorize and experiment about how you're going to do it. Okay, we're going to do one more because that is quite satisfying. I like the interactions between the fan and the kinetic ball. That's really cool. What I wanted to do was get the ball so it was firing up in a straight line and then the fans hitting it in either direction so that it would bounce the kinetic ball around. I don't think I can do that now on this level, but that's a shame. Maybe we'll make one side that grows them and one side that shrinks them and see what happens. That's so good! Okay, shrink them on that side, grow them on that side. I really want to do a double shrink or a double grow and see if it actually works. The thing that's frustrating about this level is you can't target the point where they cross over. The Tesla cannon is pretty neat. Okay, we're gonna get our first double grow capsules this time, if it works. I don't know if it will, but we can try it. I think I grew them twice. They're massive. But that's really satisfying when you manage to get it automated in a way that's working. Does that mean you can hang on? Can we put a grower here and grow the size of the fireballs? Yes, we can. Interesting. This is such a good example of like toy factor. Yeah, I mean, you are thinking about it as you play. It's not like a brainless game, but it's a much more fuzzy because of all the physics interactions. You're not thinking about it in terms of damage numbers or like how many times will that get shot before it gets around there, because you can't. Let's see how small we can make these things. Any smaller than that? Is that small? No, look, tiny! They're getting through from the side where I did the shrinking. Yeah, so the enemies are never... So the enemies from this portal are always getting knocked before they come... They stay on the same path, so the ones that are coming from the top left portal were always able to get through, but the ones that were coming from the top right couldn't. I'm going to do one more, and then I really have to end the stream. I will come back on later and put the timestamps on so that people know what the games are. But I won't be able to do that straight away today. Okay, everything is coming to here. There's not many places where it crosses over in a way that sort of you can really get them. Okay, how about kinetic tower there. We grow the stuff that goes through it. And then we put a fan there. We blow it back. Uh-oh, it's not working on this side. Hang on. Can't move the towers once it's in motion. I could have picked this up and pulled it back maybe. Or something like that, so that they kind of bend around the corner. Oh, that's interesting. What if we put another one from this side? Useless. Just not really achieving much. Yeah, the balls and fans method. Not getting much luck with that. It's a little bit too dependent on just randomly getting something in the right place rather than hitting the exact point in front of you on the track. It's great though. It really sort of feels like it really rewards you experimenting with what you can do with it, and that kind of fits the theming as well, because we're doing this kind of portal type lab experiment type theming, and yeah, to have that sort of aesthetic in a game that is encouraging you to experiment lines up really nicely. That's why Portal had that aesthetic, because it's trying to induct you into a particular way of thinking, you know? The art style that you choose and the setting that you choose is going to help players create a mental map of how they're expected to behave and think in that game. So if you make a game that looks sciencey, then it's going to make them think, oh, this is a game where I need to experiment and think and stuff like that. If you make a game that looks dark and brutal, they're going to think, oh, this is a game about grit and reactions and everything. So this stuff is important, and I think we've ended up talking a lot more about creative direction than about game design today. And in a larger studio, those would be separate things. But when you are a solo developer, you're working in a very small team. They're inseparable. You can't treat them differently, because the way that the game looks and the theming is going to impact how people kind of understand and think about the game mechanics, and that was a really good example of that. It's not just, oh, let's do Portal because that will be easy because it's minimalistic and I can make it look good. It's also, it's a lab, right? It's in the title of the game. The art style fits the title of the game. The fact that it's a lab is telling you that it's going to be a game about experimentation, and then that's what the game is. It's very rewarding to sit there, look at the pieces you've got, theorize, oh, if I put that thing there, then this is going to happen, and then watch it play out when you test it. Still kind of feels like a classic tower defense game, but that physics aspect just kind of pushes it in a different direction, where you're not thinking about damage numbers and stuff like that. Like Cab said in the chat, you can't overthink it because it's not exact, and you are thinking, but it's more like a puzzle. It's like in the earlier tower defenses we saw in the stream, the first 3 that were in the, if you're watching the VOD, it's on a different video, but I'll link them together. They were more traditional tower defense games, and that's more of like an efficiency thing, right? It's like where do I get the best damage output if I put my towers, and how I sequence my slow towers and my AoE towers. How do I create the best damage output? It's an efficiency puzzle. This is much more like a logic puzzle of, oh, if I chain this there and that makes that turn around there, and I shrink the things there, then they're going to be lighter, and then that's going to blow them off. It's more like a logic puzzle. It feels like one of those what was it called, like the Fabulous Machine or something. It's sort of late 90s PC logic puzzle games. Thank you all for dropping in today. I will pop back on later and put the timestamps on and the links to the right games, because this second stream won't have any links on it, so I will do that later. And thanks for popping in, and I will see you all soon. I've got another stream on tomorrow for Patrons games, so we'll see who's submitted stuff by then, and